to the Town. I'm Robyn Zimmerman along with Dave Ferguson. He is the owner of the Leaders Coach. So he coaches leaders. And I had not met you before. It's good to have you with us on the program.
It's great to be here, Rob.
Yeah. And your book, your latest book, is Boss or Leader, which I think is a very interesting concept. So you want to kind of describe that a little bit?
Yeah, through my corporate experience and all the years being bossed and led, I thought that the world could use some more insight on the differences between the two.
Right.
And what I did there was, it's a values-based book. I've taken 16 values, and you can self-assess yourself based on each value on how a boss acts towards the value or how a leader acts towards the value.
Right.
And so at the end of each chapter, there's some questions on the value and how you see yourself. And you make the decision then, do I need to, am I more of a boss when it comes to that value or more of a leader when it comes to that value?
Well, you were saying earlier that there are a lot of folks that are leaders, but they never really discover that within themselves until maybe never, or maybe when they're later in life.
Right. Well, that's one of the differences between a boss and a leader. See, a boss does not invite people into leadership, where a leader knows their number one job is to invite people into leadership and develop them. And so that's one of the things that I help bosses become leaders, and leaders build legacies, I like to say.
Well, say that again.
I help bosses become leaders, and I help leaders develop their legacies.
Wow. So my previous work was at PR at a hospital up in Greenville. And I always thought of myself, I had a great team, and I always thought of myself as here. They were up there. It was my job to facilitate and support them to shine, and then those rays would have shine on me. But it was a wonderful 16 years.
Then you were a leader.
Yes.
Well, then you are a leader. Sorry.
I mean, it was very enjoyable because I would be so proud of their work, and I let them lead.
Yeah, it's nice because today there's, where I go out and I go to companies and businesses and corporations, I see a gap in leadership. There's been a gap in development.
Right.
During tougher times, one of the first budgets that gets cut is developing people.
Right.
And what's that old saying? The CEO asks, what if we develop our people and they leave?
Right. Why do we want to spend that time and money?
Right. Yeah. But the thing is, what if we don't develop them and they stay?
Right.
Then we've not developed leaders in our organization.
Your employees are your greatest asset. And I've always said people do business with people.
Right.
Not with buildings.
No, right. And people leave organizations because of the leader.
Because of either the people they work with or the people they work for.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So, but there are a lot of books, Dave, and a lot of folks like you that do leadership consulting and so forth. So what, again, makes you unique and your book unique?
Most of my coaching's values-based.
Okay.
A lot of people in the leadership space don't want to go too deep with values. Mm-hmm. I feel like we have to get to the root of a person's values before we can develop them. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes you can put a bunch of people in a room as a leader and try to develop them, but if you really don't know what's important to those folks, how do you really effectively lead them? And I felt like a values-based book was needed. And you pick and choose your values. No one, just because there's 16 in there, you don't have to own all of them.
So give me an example of one of the values and then how you kind of teach that.
Well, a simple one is vision. Okay, which is interesting because I put it as the second one. When I wrote that book, it was my first. Mm-hmm. But then I remembered that I read somewhere that people very rarely read books, and very rarely, if they open it, to get past the first chapter. So I moved perseverance to one. And challenged them to persevere.
The power of perseverance.
And so, if you take any of those values in that book, it's easy to really self-assess yourself.
Yeah.
Am I more of a boss or a leader with that value? And if I want to become more of a leader on that value, what can I do? And that's what the book helps you to do.
All right. And so you live on the island.
I do. I'm full-time now, yes.
But you're from?
From New York. I moved down to the Charlotte Lake Norman area a long time ago. Had a second home here, and I've been full-time here now for about 3 years.
So are you retired, or are you still working full-time?
I'm still working full-time, yes. Yeah. I tried to slow down, but...
I know. Hey, me too.
It's one of those things when you love what you do, I know people say this, and a lot of people don't believe this, but when you love what you do, and it never feels like work, why would you stop?
Why would you stop?
Right?
Right.
So, we have that common value.
We do. Well, nice to meet you, Dave.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Dave Ferguson, who is the Leaders Coach.